dictionary collecting. This is an odd little hobby that branched off from the nerdiest part of my book-loving kid brain, because maybe even more so than I liked to read back then, I loved to write, and I wanted a broad vocabulary to help enhance my projects. I think I put it out loud once as, I want to collect all the words and keep them on my shelf, or something like that. Ownership of something as all-inclusive and meaningful as a dictionary, especially in an age where physical media is becoming much more scarce in favor of digitalization, scratched some primal part of my nerd brain, and so the obsession began. This new hobby warranted many a trip to my local half-price books to dig through whatever dusty old volumes occupied their reference shelves, as well as a handful of my parents' adult friends graciously offering to offload their collections to me once my new interest became public knowledge. It was a win-win. I'd take their dictionaries with glee, and they would have much more closet space than before. And I still have most of my dictionaries all these years later, and so I wanted to highlight a few of them to show you. And if you stick around for this, I think we should be friends, because this is such a niche, nerdy topic, and I think we'd get along in real life. But anyway, let the collection tour begin. This is my pride and joy. I call her Big Blue. It's the first dictionary that I remember purchasing with my own money, and it's not particularly valuable or special or rare, but it means something to me because I remember that it was everything that I wanted a dictionary to be. Look at how thick she is. She is voluptuous. Look at how tightly packed these pages are with so many fun words I'd never even considered before. I would sometimes open to a random page just for the thrill of discovering some new speck of the English language, and somehow bullies never shoved me into lockers demanding my lunch money. But this dictionary is also cool because it has a bunch of full color illustrations in the middle that feel more out of an encyclopedia than a dictionary. Look at these fish. They did not have to include that. I would hang some of these illustrations up because I think they'd be good wall art if only I could decide which side to not show. And in the very back we have maps of every continent and the whole world. Although these maps would be outdated, they would have the USSR and a unified Sudan, because this is a relic of the 80s. There's a list of presidents in here that only goes up to Reagan. I think this dictionary, my first ever dictionary, fascinates me because it's a glance into a pre-internet world that I was never privy to. This was where you got all your information, or else you went to your encyclopedia or the library, and you know, I'd be lying if I said that some part of me doesn't long for that simplicity now. Although, you know, I could drone on about how nostalgia is an imperfect view of the past, at best. But that is probably a whole other video in itself. Anyway, this dictionary is amazing, and I'll probably keep it forever to connect me not only to my past, but to the past that came before me. Also, one last thing about this dictionary before we move on. It's called a Webster's, you'll notice on the front, but it is not, in fact, published by the Merriam-Webster Company. And this has been legal for any reference book publisher to do since 1908, when a court case ruled that the Webster's name was now public domain. I picked up that little factoid from the book Word by Word by Kory, which I'll talk a little bit more about once I get through some more dictionaries. That thing's so freaking heavy, man. It weighs like a ton. I mean, I understand why people use them as like booster seats and doorstops now, jeez. But dictionaries come in all shapes and sizes. This little one is a Welsh to English pocket dictionary. My mom picked this up for me on one of her trips to the UK back when that was more of a frequent thing that she did. And it's an oddball. It's definitely the weirdest dictionary in my collection. I cannot speak a single word of Welsh, nor do I have all that much interest in learning the language. It's a little bit outside my everyday scope. Evidently though, Welsh is the only Celtic language, according to UNESCO, that is not currently endangered, so the more you know. It might be a little practical after all. I still think this thing is fascinating though, and I'm glad my mom got it for me. I do think it's funny that this is the only translation dictionary that I own, even though I've been taking Spanish classes for like 4 years. Who needs them anyway? Who needs those dictionaries? Oh. Shout out to the Welsh flag too. I love that y'all just put like a badass dragon on there. This is a little peek at the pages. There's a section that's Welsh to English and English to Welsh. It does both. Here's the Scrabble dictionary, and this is definitely the most practical of my dictionaries, since my family and I would actually refer to it during Scrabble game nights, and Boggle too, just for fun. If you can see on the spine, it has many cracks. You can tell it got plenty of usage and settled many disputes. This tells you the eligible list of Scrabble words, and I believe it excludes any words that are not possible to make with only the allotted 100 or so letter tiles, and that's why this exists as opposed to just having a regular dictionary. It does not include point totals next to the words, which is kind of a bummer, but each new letter, if you can see that, it starts with a little illustration of a Scrabble tile, and I just think that's very charming. And then the last two that I'm gonna show, they both come from one of my mom's roller derby friends, which, lore drop, my mom and I, and my brother too, just for a bit, all joined our local roller derby league at one point or another, which, funny enough, I am sporting their logo in this video. Our mom was a referee for almost a decade, up until COVID hit, and my brother and I joined the junior league to learn the ropes of blocking and jamming. Although I never participated in an actual sanctioned game, I still am a fiend on the quad skates. But anyway, I completely got sidetracked. This friend of my mom's gave me a few dictionaries, and I'll just cycle through them quickly and see if I have anything to say about them. We have an American Heritage dictionary, and it's got the thumb ridges along the spine, or the pages, so that you can just thumb to a letter, and I think that's handy. Big Blue also has those, I just didn't show. Look at that, I love how that looks. That's very sleek. Looks like we got some illustrations, or some photos rather, on the side. That's very handy. It is on the cover. It's called the Encyclopedic Edition, and we also have some clippings falling out, so I'm gonna close this. It's not very well bound, I don't think. And then look at this thing. This is, it's got those gold pages. Oh, very fancy. It's like a Bible almost. I mean, this is just a cool object. And that's all the dictionaries that I have on hand at the moment in this room right now. But I am gonna plug that Cory Stamper book I talked about word by word, and I talked about this a little bit in my ranking video. Since I did read it, I reread it last year. If you want to tune into that, it might be interesting. But this is a fantastic book for word nerds and people who are like super curious about this stuff like I am. It is a first-hand account of a Merriam-Webster employee who works as a lexicographer, and it also is a richly detailed history of the publication of dictionaries in general, which is, I mean, at least to me, it's quite fascinating, and maybe it will be to you too. But anyway, that's Word by Word by Cory Stamper. Go check it out. Thank you all for listening to me ramble about quite possibly my nerdiest ever hyperfixation. I appreciate you all. My question of the day before I go: what was your most notable or nerdiest hyperfixation or phase, or what have you? Feel free to info dump about it in the comments, because I will probably read them all, and I love listening to people talk about their interests. In a way, this video was quite self-serving for that reason, but whatever, you know, I do what I want, and so should you. And that's all I have for you today, so goodbye!